Initiation by Elisabeth Haich. Chapter 4. Sunrise is different. In the spring I was very pale, and mealtimes were constant agony for me. I had no appetite, not even for the best foods, and yet Mother wanted to persuade me to eat. But when I could not, my only interest in the soup was to play with the blobs of grease on its surface, stirring them with my spoon and trying to unite the little ones into the big one. First, I would get two little ones to merge, and then stir in another one and another until there was only one big blob of grease on top of the soup. My parents did not appreciate my efforts, and a number of times Father sent me away from the table because I was disobedient, refusing to eat my soup and spinach and turnips, and because I only wanted to play with my food. When Father saw that his punishment left me completely unimpressed, and that as soon as he had taken me to my room, I busied myself with the books that I loved so dearly, he decided, on the advice of our doctor, to take our whole family to the seaside for the summer. And as soon as our spring examinations were over, we set out on our journey. We traveled through the night. Mother covered us with blankets, and saw to it that we were warm and comfortable. I fell asleep, but the strange surroundings woke me well before sunrise. Father and Greet were still sleeping, but Mother was awake, and I asked her to let me sit next to the window. I had heard so often about the beauty of sunrise that I wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to see it for myself. I sat beside the window, poked my head behind the curtain, and looked out. The sky was still quite dark and just beginning to get light, little by little, turning a dull gray. Slowly the sky became quite light, and I saw how our train was roaring through all kinds of changing landscapes, houses, trees, and fields with people and horses, cows in them, and still the sun was not yet up. How can it be light when the sun isn't up yet? That was a big surprise for me, but still it was true. Then, when the sky was almost as bright as day, the sun appeared on the horizon. Finally it came up, and with it the sky turned beautiful purple red, just as I'd been expecting it to do, so far in vain. But this color was much more pale, as if diluted, so different from what I had expected. What a disappointment. Sunrise isn't like this. Meanwhile, the others in our compartment had awakened, and Father asked, "How did you like the sunrise? Now that you've had a chance to see it for the first time in your life, isn't it beautiful?" And he smiled at me. "No, Father," I answered, disappointed and angry. "It wasn't beautiful at all. Sunrise should not be like that. It was boring. It took much too long, and it was all spoiled because the sky got light much too early. Light, but still so colorless and ugly before the sun finally came up. No, it wasn't pretty at all. Sunrise is really very different, quite different." And I looked off in another direction, angry and dissatisfied. Father listened to me as he often did, with patience and close attention. In his beautiful, glowing black eyes I saw his interest and his usual amused expression that told me he was making fun of me, but was still full of love and understanding. "You don't say. Sunrise is supposed to be different? You're not satisfied with the sunrise? Do you mean to say that you, little upstart, are not satisfied with what nature does? And you want to dictate how the sun is supposed to rise? How do you think you know how the sun should rise when you've never in all your life had an opportunity to see a sunrise? Just tell me that." He scrutinized me and waited for my answer. Then I looked at him confidently and I said, "I do not know how I know, and I do not know where I've seen a sunrise before, but I do know that it's not supposed to be like this. The sun should rise right up out of the dark sky, and all at once everything should turn light and bright, not such a dull and boring gray, but all red and reddish purple, so that the whole sky and everything on earth is flooded with red. It's supposed to be much, much more beautiful, more surprising, and more uplifting, you know? I remember. No, I know. I remember. Said Father. You remember? He smiled condescendingly. Your imagination is working overtime. Then he took a cup of coffee that Mother proffered him and took a sip and turned to me again. I'm really sorry that you weren't satisfied with the sunrise. The weather is perfectly clear today, and it just couldn't have been more beautiful, more colorful, but I can't help it. There's nothing I can do about it. I didn't answer. I was angry, not only about the disappointing sunrise, but especially about the fact that Father, when I knew exactly and remembered it clearly, said that my imagination was working overtime. Imagination is something quite different. When I think out something in my mind, that is imagination. But sunrise, real sunrise, the way it should be, I didn't think that out. That was something that was living in me, engraved deeply in my memory, even more deeply than yesterday and everything that's happened then. I was angry indeed. I was angry when I felt helplessly unable to prove something that I knew for sure. I looked defiantly off into the distance until all of a sudden there was a rush from the corridor and Father called us. The ocean, children, come here quickly. There's the ocean. We rushed to the window in the corridor, and there, far below, was the sea. Oh, my dearly beloved sea. The train roared along. High up on the mountainside, down below was a vast expanse of the sea. I was all excited and happy because I knew exactly that I was acquainted with the sea and that I was not seeing it for the first time. I regarded it as a matter of course, something perfectly obvious, not even bothering to wonder how my feelings could be possible. I looked down at it without saying a word, while in my heart a happy voice was singing, "Oh, you wonderful, wonderful sea, beloved sea, always the same, understanding everything, experiencing everything, and surviving everything. Oh, you dear friend, you who have listened to me so often to tell me of your pains and joys and sorrows, listened so understandingly and offered me the consolation of your infinity and eternity. Your uplifting consolation surpasses everything human. You are here again. You are always here, unchanged, and I can look into your depths again, listen to your waves as they tell about eternity." Father touched my shoulder and asked, "How do you like the sea? Does it suit you, or should it be different too?" "No, Father," I answered, "the sea is just the way it should be. But the shore, why is there a shore all around it? The sea should be unending. We shouldn't be able to see the other shore." "Yes," said Father, "you'll see it's that way when we get down lower. Right now, below us is a big bay, and that's why it looks as if the sea has shores all around it. But when we get lower and closer, you'll see only water, open water, as far as the eye can reach." I was greatly relieved. I was enthusiastic about the magnificent view, and so was my sister. At last, we found something about which we were in perfect agreement. She enjoyed the sea as much as I did, and later when we went hunting for mussels and crabs between the rocks, we were the best of friends in every respect. We were all very happy at this beach resort. Father was in good spirits, and that had a stimulating effect on all of us. Mother was radiant as she could be with Father all day long. One day we went into the little church, which stood surrounded by cypress trees in a beautiful garden. Mother knelt down and prayed long and fervently. Father stood beside her and looked very grave. Greet knelt and prayed too. I wanted to be devout, but I could not. I did not kneel because I felt no desire to do so. I never wanted to bend my knees before visible forms. Should I kneel down just because the others were doing it? No, certainly not. Just because I wanted to be a good girl? God does not need that. God can see that would not be honest. No, I did not kneel. Instead, I watched how the other people were praying. After a while, when I was already getting a little bored, Father touched Mother's shoulder. She stood up, and we all went out. Outside, everything was drenched in sunshine. I jumped about happily, and I felt much closer to God in the sunshine than I had in that cold church. That evening, while Mother was praying with me, I asked her, "Mother, why were you praying so fervently in church?" "I was praying," she said, "that if God is going to send us another little child, it may be a little brother for you." I was speechless. A little brother? Maybe he would be a good friend. Fine, that would be splendid. Then I understood why Mother had knelt down and prayed so intently for a child. That made sense. The next winter, I awoke once in the middle of the night. From my parents' bedroom, I heard strange sounds. It was the crying of a babe in arms. A few moments later, Father appeared, fully dressed, and asked, "Are you awake?" "Yes, Father," said Greeton and I. "Something wonderful has happened. God has sent you both a little brother." That was so exciting, and I wanted to go and look at my little brother immediately, but Father said that I should wait patiently until morning, and then Mother would show me the child. Father was very strange. He smiled sweetly and gently, and spoke in such hushed and tender tones that I did not dare to contradict him. The next morning, my maternal grandmother came in, and she helped me get dressed, and we both went into my parents' bedroom, and there lay my mother, and on a cushion in her arm, a little child with black hair. I looked at it attentively, and then observed that it had long, fine tufts of hair on its ears, like a little monkey. Because I was freshly washed, I was permitted to stroke its little fist. Everybody looked at me, and everybody was so still and grave and dignified. From then on, there were 3 of us children in the family, and I was even more alone than before. And that's the end of chapter 4. Chapter 5 is entitled, "I Want to Get Away." So I hope you enjoy that, and till soon.